Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are back for the second series of our Meet the Winemakers. And today we are privileged to welcome Lucie Depuydt from Moreau Fils in Chablis. So before we get started, just a little reminder of the rules. The presentation will take place for about half an hour and a question and answer session at the end. You'll see a little Q&R box down at the bottom of your screen. So please feel free to ask questions as we go along, and we'll try and answer them all. And if we don't, you can send us an email and we'll reply to you after the presentation. So without further ado, good evening, Lucie. How are you? Good evening. Very fine, thank you. And you? Yeah, great. Wonderful to see you. How's things in Chablis?
Very good, very good. We are waiting for the harvest.
Early this year?
Sorry?
An early harvest this year?
Yeah, very early. I think it's possibly we are going to harvest in August. So yeah, it's very early.
So no holidays for you then?
Very short holidays.
Great. Okay, so before we start talking about Chablis and the wines, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you became a winemaker?
So I am the winemaker for Moreau since 2007. But first I was studying food science, and during my food science studies, I went to Spain to work on yeast, natural yeast for wine, to improve the quality of the wine of Spain. And that's why I decided to move to winemaking. And then I made a master in pedology and geology. And during this master, I mapped the soil and the subsoil of the vineyard of Chablis. And that's why I'm so invested in the selection of the parcels in the vineyard, depending their soil and their subsoil. I'm sure that it's one of the key to understand the complexity of Chablis wines.
Cool. Yeah, I was going to ask you, so we'll talk specifically about Chablis terroir later, but how does studying geology help you as a winemaker in general? What are the important parts of geology for you?
So I don't know if you know a lot about Chablis. So I know that you know a lot of different things, but in Chablis soil and subsoil, what is really strange is that we have very, very old geology. So we have parent rock, which are very, very old. And one of the famous one is Kimmeridgian limestone. So it's a limestone where you can find some very small oysters. We have also Portlandian limestone, and we have a very, very big complexity of soil and subsoil. Yeah, here you have an example of Kimmeridgian limestone with the oysters. And every kind of soil and subsoil has a different circulation of water. And you know that circulation of water in the soil will give you different complexity and maturity in the grapes. So I understand when I mapped the soil of the vineyard that every kind of soil, even in a small area, you could have different characteristics and different maturity of the grapes. Great.
Okay, well, we'll talk more about the terroir specifically later. Moving on, tell me a little bit about Moreau, the history of the house.
So this company was created in 1814, so by Jean-Joseph Moreau, and it's one of the oldest wine company in Chablis. And they started to export very, very early at the beginning of the 20th century. And that's why now you can find Moreau wines in so much country in the world. And due to the crisis of the phylloxera, at the beginning of the 20th century, we had we lost a lot of vineyard, and so they needed to buy grapes to other vine growers, and they started to do some partnership with vine growers to be able to export wine in all the world.
Great. Now, J. Moreau is a negotiant, and negotiant can mean a lot of different things in Burgundy. So, I mean, it does mean that we don't actually own any of the vines, but you actually make all of the wines. You don't buy and blend any wines. Can you just explain that process and how it works and what makes the Moreau approach different from sort of standard negotiant business?
Yeah. Very often, before a negotiant was considered as like a wine blender, but it's really not our approach. Due to this history with the partnership of vine growers and all, when I arrived in 2007, we decided to focus on the vinification and the quality of the wines. So yes, it was me at the beginning. That's why we decided to do more and more partnership with vine growers. So now we have more than 30 different partners spread in all the vineyard, which represent around 200 parcels, different parcels, and more than 300 hectares of vinification. So we know that we have like 100% potential in the grapes of quality, 100% quality potential, and then my job is to preserve this potential until the bottling. So I am sure that when you manage all the process from the beginning to the end, you are able to preserve the maximum of quality in the grapes. So that's why we decided to vinify everything. And now negotiation for us is not the blend of wine, it's just selection of the best parcels.
Great, thank you. And of course, we all know that winemakers only work 4 weeks in the year. So the rest of the time you are actually working because you're visiting all of these different partners in the vineyards, deciding on how the grapes are grown, etc. I'm imagining that when you started, you found yourself in front of a whole bunch of generally older men who've been running the business for years. Tell me a little about what the relationship was with the growers when you first started, what the challenges were, and how you got them to do things your way.
You're right. It wasn't really easy. So a big part of my job was to go in the vineyard, to talk with vine growers and to give advices. So you can imagine that when you are a girl and a young girl, and when you are talking with a man which could be your grandfather, it's not easy to tell you need to do this way or that way. So it wasn't my method, so I decided to do differently. I was listening a lot. I was asking some questions. Why are you doing this way? And then it was like trust, only trust. And with time and with questions and with trust, we started to work very close, and I am really happy because now it's quite easy for me to ask some quality, some new methods of pruning, for example, the date of harvest and everything. It's really easier for me now than at the beginning, yeah.
And because you've been doing it for 13 years now with the same partners. I mean,
yeah.
Are most of these partnerships very long term? I mean, for a lot of the people you've been working has been completely for more than 10 years?
More, yeah, because I think that around 10 vine growers are with Moreau since maybe 40 years.
Wow.
The same family still selling to Moreau the grapes. So I know all the parcels, and I can go in the parcels alone because I used to work with the same parcel and the same grapes.
Great. So you have all these different growers. Can you tell us how many different wines you make, Lucie, and how much wine you make?
So how much? So more than 300 hectares. So could be between 15 hectoliters, 15,000 hectoliters to 20,000 hectoliters,
Okay.
depending the yield, the vintage, and all. So and represent around 20 different wines.
Okay, so for people watching, that volume in hectoliters, which is 1,000 liters, corresponds to somewhere around 200,000 cases of all these different wines that Lucie's managing every year. So it's a tremendously big and hard job that you do, Lucie. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. But we are very, very lucky because due to this quantity of parcels, we can have a real good selection of the best parcel depending the soil and the subsoil and depending the weather of the vintage.
Okay, so now let's move on before we go into the tasting itself. Would you just like to give us a very quick overview for people watching who don't know what Chablis is all about? Could you just give us a quick overview of what the region looked like, what different wines coming from the area are?
Yeah, so Chablis, it's a part of Burgundy vineyard, but it's at the north of the Burgundy region, just between Paris and Dijon. And this is a quite small vineyard, around 5,500 hectares in total. And in this vineyard, you could find 4 different levels of appellation spread in 20 different villages. So you have Chablis at the middle, and then you have 20 different villages all around Chablis where you can find vineyard for Petit Chablis, Chablis, Premier Cru, and Grand Cru. So just to understand why we have these different levels of appellation, you could find the Petit Chablis on the top of the hills, always. Then you will have the Chablis on the slopes. When the slopes are very well exposed to the sun, you will have a Premier Cru, and we have 17 different Premier Cru. And then you have only one hill situated very close to the village of Chablis, where you have the best exposure, the best slopes, where you have the 7 different Grand Cru of Chablis. So just to have an idea, the Grand Cru of Chablis are only 100 hectares in the 5,500 hectares in total of the appellation. Wow.
So again, for people doing the math who don't know the conversion, 1 hectare is about 2.5 acres. So that's about 15,000 acres totally for all of the production of Chablis, of which only 250 acres is the Grand Cru. And Premier Cru Chablis, what proportion does Chablis, AOC Chablis, represent of the total production?
So you have 1,000 hectares of Petit Chablis. Then you will have almost the same for the Premier Cru, a little less than 1,000 hectares. Then only 100 for the Grand Cru, and all the rest are Chablis. So Chablis, it's really spread in all the vineyard, but really spread in all the kind of soil and subsoil of the vineyard.
All right, so I think everybody looking in is getting virtually thirsty. So perhaps it's time to move on and have a look a little bit of the wine. So would you like to start and introduce us to the first wine, which is a Chablis Premier Cru Vaillon 2018?
Yes. So Vaillon, it's of course a Premier Cru, situated on the left bank of the river. So in Chablis vineyard, you have a river which crosses the vineyard from the north to the south into two banks, the right bank and the left bank. So Vaillon is situated on the left bank. So here you have the map, and it's quite easier to understand why it's a Premier Cru and not a Chablis. On this map, you can see that the Vaillon has a very good southeast exposure, and Chablis is quite difficult in terms of Premier Cru because you could find 40 different Premier Cru, but because it's too complicated for all the customers, they decided to have one like flagship or umbrella for each kind of Premier Cru. So, for example, the Vaillon, on the same slope, you could find different names. So, les lys, épinotes, séchées, roncières, châtain, beugnon, and minot. But you can name Vaillon every small climat to be able to be easier for the customers. So in the Vaillon slopes, we are quite lucky because we have parcels in Châtain, in Beugnon, and in Roncières. So 3 different places, 3 different climats with different characteristics of soil and subsoil. So of course we have chimeridgen, but you could have like sediment on the chimeridgen, and sometimes the roots don't touch directly the chimeridgen. So you could find different characteristics in the maturation of the grapes, and with these 3 different parcels, we can have a real good selection of the quality.
So I have a question for you about left bank and right bank, because many people who are watching will be very familiar with between left bank and right bank Bordeaux, which are very different wines. And in Chablis, we don't always talk about left bank and right bank. Is that really important, which side of the river it comes from, or are there other factors that are more important than which side of the river they're sitting on?
Now, to me, it's much more to situate easily the parcels in the vineyard. But the main difference is maybe the exposure, because mainly the Premier Cru coming from the right bank are with a southwest exposure, and mainly the Premier Cru coming from the left bank of the river are facing southeast. But to me is the only one big difference between. If it would be, if it was so easy to determine the right bank and the left bank, we would have only 2 different Premier Cru. But because we have 17 and we have so much difference, so much characteristic and parameters, it's not easy to say, okay, the right bank is like that and the left bank is like that. No, we have much more difference, and it's very good for us because we work with selection of parcels, and that's why it's so interesting to work in Chablis.
Thank you. So shall we taste the Vaillon, and you can tell us how it's showing today?
Yes. So Vaillon 2018 was a selection of these 3 different parcels with vinification mainly in stainless steel tanks, so no oak, just a little touch of oak, we used to use around 20 to 30% of barrels, no more. And then a very, very long aging on lees. So this Vaillon 18 was bottled at the beginning of this year. So in March, after 17 months of aging.
You mentioned, oh, I'm sorry, Lucie.
Sorry.
Yes, I was going to say, you mentioned about the use of oak. Can you just tell us a little bit about the use of oak generally in Chablis and the wine, and whether you're using new oak, old barrels? How does it work in Chablis?
So we, at the beginning of the 20th century, Chablis was vinified in feuillette. Feuillette, which was a very small barrel, 132 liters. So easy to bring in the boat when we sold the wine in Paris, and we needed to use boat to bring the wine to Paris. So feuillette was very easy to move. And so Chablis used to use a lot of barrels, feuillette. And what is really funny is that we are still paying the grapes with this unit. We paid with this unit of feuillette, which is 132 liters. But in the reality, no one is using feuillette now to vinify the Chablis, because it's small, it's not easy to age, because a small volume could give you problems of oxidation. So now we have a proportion of people working only with tank, stainless steel tank, just to give the freshness, the minerality of the Chablis. For Moreau, we decided to be more balanced. So not everything in oak barrels, just a small part, just to give complexity and just to help the wine opening. But my objective is to give you the freshness and the minerality of the terroir, and not to hide the flavors with the wood.
Okay, so back to the wine. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. So back to the wine.
So Vaillon, to me, it's always like elegance. You have very nice nose of white blossom, a small touch of fresh almond also, and it's really, really elegant. At the mouth, you have much more roundness. You can feel that 2018 was quite hot, so almost sweetness, even if the wine is dry and without sugar, but you have this impression of roundness and sweetness due to the quality of the maturation of the grapes. And very often on the Premier Cru, but especially in the Vaillon, you could find at the final this touch of saltiness, very pleasant, which give you the envy to take another glass.
Tasting well today?
Perfect.
So let's cross the river and visit Mont de Milieu.
Yes. So Mont de Milieu is situated on the right bank of the river, and it's 100% south exposure. So always with a lot of sun and always a very, very big maturation of the grapes. So the objective is always to be very careful on the date of the harvest, because if you are too late, you can lose all the freshness and all the characteristic of Chablis terroir. So on the Mont de Milieu, we have 3 different parcels, one on the bottom of the hill, one at the middle, and one at the top. 3 different locations of the parcel will give you 3 different kinds of soil and subsoil. So 3 different circulation of water and 3 different kind of grapes. So always very funny because between the first parcels to the parcels at the bottom, we could have 5 days in the date of the harvest to be able to have the best maturity of the grapes.
And the fact that it is exactly south-facing, do you generally get a richer style of Chablis Cru, Premier Cru from Mont de Milieu?
What is really funny is that it's not the good interpretation. Of course, we have a south exposure of the slopes, but due to the terroir, due to the chimerism, and due to the soil, we keep a lot of freshness in the wine and a lot of minerality. Very often, it's almost like smoky at the nose, and even if you vinify only in stainless steel tank, you could find almost like you use barrels, even if it's not the case.
J'ai juste un problème sur mon ordinateur.
That's okay. Little technical glitch. So while Lucie's just fixing a computer, Lisa, if you put the map back up on Milieu again. And then I can explain to the to our viewers that Mont Milieu actually means the mountain in the middle.
Yeah.
The fact that back in the day, in the Middle Ages, this road that's running across there, the N965, you can see that cuts through the vineyard, was actually the limit between the Dukes of Burgundy and the Dukes of Champagne. And the fact that Chablis belongs to Burgundy is really only due to the fact that the Dukes of Burgundy conquered it and beat up their neighbors and confiscated lands that really should have been part of Champagne and were therefore part of Burgundy. And therefore that Mont de Milieu, the middle, refers to the fact that that road runs right through the middle of that vineyard and separated those 2 dukedoms back in the day. Back to Lucie. So tell us about how this is tasting today.
So you have the characteristic of the vintage, which is very fruity, with like almost exotic fruit on the nose, almost pineapple. And then you have this kind of smoky minerality, which is really magic and due to the terroir. At the mouth, it's completely different. The first mouth is very fresh, and then you have the sweetness and the roundness to finish with the minerality.
Now, you've mentioned a couple of times that 2018 was a warmer vintage, and so you're getting a little bit of tropical fruit, a little more softness in the wine that you would get in a cooler vintage. Can you tell us a little bit more about the vintage?
Yes, so 18 came after 16 and 17, and 16 and 17, yeah, were terrible for us, because 16 we had frost and hail, and 17 a lot of frost. So in 18 the climate of the winter was very nice for us, without frost, and we were praying for this. And then we had like a perfect summer, without disease, without problems, with good quantity, and with the sun, with very good quality. So 18 was like a dream for a lot of wine growers in Chablis. Yeah.
Stylistically, a lot of people know Chablis for these very high acid, very mineral, very lean wines. 18 is a little bit more voluptuous though?
Yeah, to me, 18 maybe could be easier to drink, even young. When you are a people who love wine, but not especially who love Chablis wines, I think that 18 could be the best way to start with Chablis style, with Chablis wine, because quite easy. You have all the characteristics of Chablis wines, but with maybe more roundness and more sweetness in the mouth.
I agree. We did an event on Sunday. We drank the Chablis Village 2018 and people loved it. It was absolutely delicious. And as you say, accessible very early and drinking beautifully now. So well done on that.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's finish the last of our Premier Crus. Tell us a little bit about the Vaucoupin.
Yes, this is my favorite. Maybe not very famous in Chablis, situated on the right bank, but more on the south of Chablis village. And Vaucoupin, it's just incredible. When you look at the vineyard, it's almost like you don't have nothing of earth. It's just limestone. Every soil, the ground is just white due to the limestone. And you have a potential in this Premier Cru, which is incredible. You have I think that it's the Premier Cru to all the people who love Chablis wines, really.
Wonderful. And that is the most mineral style then for you?
Yeah, you have almost everything in this wine. You have, of course, a lot of minerality with always this kind of zest, grapefruit zest, lemon, but you could find the white blossom, you could find fruit in the mouth, yellow fruit in the mouth, and very, very long, always very, very long. So this is this kind of Premier Cru. You can drink it very young, but you can age it very well. We drank Vaucoupin 2010 yesterday, and it was just perfect, really perfect. So you have a very big potential in this Premier Cru.
So we won't have to force you to taste this one then? So.
No. Exactly what I told you just before. You have like toasted almond on the nose. You have the white blossom, and you have this kind of zest, lemon zest on the nose. It's really complex, and you have just envy to finish the bottle.
Okay.
The mouth is really, really concentrated.
So before we go on to a few questions, I have a number of questions lining up for you, Lucie, that we'll ask you in a second. But of course, every good tasting has to finish with a Grand Cru. So yeah. Let's talk about Grand Crus in general for a start. If you'd like to tell us a little bit about the hill and what's so special about it, and then tell us specifically about the Valmur. So.
Yeah. So as I told you just before, the Grand Cru Hill is very close to Chablis village and divided into 7 different Grand Cru. So the hill has a southwest exposure, but in the hill you could have some valley and some different exposure. So different kind of soil, subsoil, exposure, slopes. So you could find a lot of difference kind of parcels and kind of wine. So you have 7 Grand Cru. Here we are talking about Valmur. Valmur is just at the middle of the Grand Cru hill, and you have this kind of valley with 2 different exposures. We have the chance to vinify a parcel which is southeast exposure and which is quite big, so we have volume and we can have a very good decision on the date of harvest. The Valmur is situated almost directly on the limestone, on the Kimmeridgian limestone. You have a very, very small soil, so the roots are directly in the limestone. Yes, this is exactly the parcel of Valmur that we vinify. Close to the tree, at your left, you have the parcel of Valmur. And between the first parcel of the Grand Cru harvested and these parcels, you could have 3 weeks, because on the same Grand Cru hill, you could find so much differences that you have one parcels with good maturation at the 1st of September, and for example, the Valmur could be harvested at the end of September, almost.
And how many bottles or how much Valmur would you make in an average year?
Around 4,000 bottles, which is good, which is very good for the Grand Cru in Chablis.
Terrific. Would you like to taste it for us?
Yes, of course. So exactly the same in terms of aging. So in Moreau, we used to keep the wine on lees a very, very long time for 2 reasons. The first reason is that the lees are going to give much more complexity and warmness to the wine. And the second reason is that the lees protect the wines against oxidation. And when you use lees during the aging, you don't need to add so much sulfur in the wine. So because of this way of aging, very often we have in our wines less sulfur than in some organic wines. So Valmur, it's always, maybe if we can compare it with one of the Premier Cru, to me, Valmur is the higher level of the Vaucoupin. You have the Vaucoupin, which is a Premier Cru with a lot of minerality and Chablis style and characteristic. And the Valmur, it's exactly the same for the Grand Cru. So with a lot of power and density and structure, and this is a wine that you can age very, very, very long time. So always on the nose, you have this kind of stony nose. It's almost like you are walking the vineyard just after a small rain, and when the limestone is still very hot in the summer. So you have this impression of freshness and minerality due to the vineyard, really. And in the nose, you have a lot of juice, yellow fruit juice. So the blend of stony minerality and yellow fruit juice give you an incredible wine, and a wine that you can age very, very long time. Yeah.
So that's an interesting point, because obviously some people watching may not be aware that white Grand Cru Chablis is so age-worthy. But this wine in 10, 15 years will be very different from it is today. How will it be tasting and looking different, if you're, 10, 15 years down the road, Lucie?
Yeah, I was. It's quite funny because I was tasting Grand Cru 98 today. Yeah, and it was incredible because you have first at the nose the impression of mango, so a yellow fruit with a lot of concentration and sugar, and then you have impression of mushroom, almost truffle. You have truffle, you have mango, you have this kind of herbal notes, and in the mouth you have the impression of minerality and lemon. So you have almost two faces. You have the faces of evolution, the very good evolution, and then you have the freshness of Chablis, even young wine.
And they have these beautiful deep golden colors when they're that age.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And this kind of wine can be matched with a lot of different food, even some cheeses.
Sounds like another hard day at the office for you, Lucy. I'm sorry you had to do that. So I think we've come to the end of the tasting. That's terrific. So we've got a few questions that have come in. I think we've answered one or two. You said that, that Vaucoupin was your favorite Premier Cru. Is there another favorite wine, a Grand Cru, that is really your favorite wine too?
To me, the Valmur is the father of the Vaucoupin. So I love the Vaucoupin and I love the Valmur.
Okay. So what else do we have? A question. We had a question from Ken specifically comparing the Montmilieu and the Vaucoupin in terms of ripeness styles. How would you compare the ripeness between Vaucoupin and Montmilieu?
These two here are completely different in terms of soil and subsoil. You have the Montmilieu with quite deep soil, and at the bottom of the hill we have maybe 1 meter of soil, so correct reserve of water, and then you have the Vaucoupin without nothing, no soil. You have just limestone. So these two kind of soil will give you a maturation completely different. You have the Montmilieu able to have a maturity very, very important. So the challenge is to keep freshness in this Premier Cru and to harvest quite early. And then you have the Vaucoupin, and sometimes the Vaucoupin, due to this very hard condition, with problems, not problems, but need more time to mature and more time to express all the flavors. So it's really important to taste the grapes every day during the maturation to be able to choose the best date. But between the Vaucoupin and the Montmilieu, we could have more than 1 week different between the harvest date of the Montmilieu and the harvest date of the Vaucoupin.
Okay, so you've got everybody very interested on the questions now, because now they're saying, well, what about Montmains and Vaillon? This is Dan asking the question. So Montmains and Vaillon kind of mirror each other and they're very close. Are they? Yeah. They're very similar?
No, nothing.
Of course not.
No, it's very funny because it's they are very close. From one to another one, you have 10 minutes walking, no more. But on the Vaillon, you have this kind of limestone coming from the Chimay region. And in the Montmains, you have marl. And marl is like a blend of clay and limestone. Very, very complicated for the vineyard because roots had problems to cross the marl and to go very deep in the soil. So on the marl, you will have a wine with much more, always start quite close and need times to open and to reveal. So the Montmains, it's always like that. You have a Vaillon, very elegant, quite easy to open, and you have the Montmains, which is like a baby that you need to help to go and to walk, really.
I don't know if you know what a curveball is, Lucy. It's a baseball term in America when somebody asks you a difficult question. It's our friend Woody in Texas who says in Texas they love the Moreau Fils. And
Yes.
He wants to know if there is a difference in working with the Chenin grape compared to working with Chardonnay.
Completely different. And in Chablis, it's almost like we work with Chablis grapes. Chardonnay, it's always hidden after the Chablis terroir. For the Vouvray, the objective is to get the best maturity of the Chenin because you have this kind of residual sugar, and to be able to have the best balance between the sugar and the acidity, it's really, really hard to find the best date of harvest. So, Chenin, it's and Chenin is a grape variety with like aromatic flavors. Even when you taste the juice, you will have flavors. When you taste the juice of Chardonnay, first you don't have flavors. The flavors are coming after, during the vinification, during the aging. The Vouvray is already aromatic.
Thank you. Well, Lucy, I think we've come to the end of our allotted time and I don't see more questions coming up. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I did want to say, I think we could all sit here and listen for you go through every parcel in detail. It's been absolutely fascinating. You know, we have a lot of great winemakers at Boisset. I'm not sure that any of them really understand to the same extent all the terroir at the same level as you do and explain it so well. So that was absolutely terrific. We really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy your evening. Pop a cork of something nice in Chablis this evening. Thank you, everybody, for looking in. And please feel free to email us if you have any more questions. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. So thanks again to everybody. Bonsoir and goodbye.
Bye.